Let's discuss if statements. So a tool in coding that will allow us to test out some sort of a condition and only execute a block of code if this condition is satisfied. This is a second video in the series about methods and if statements and loops. So if this is your first video that you are seeing, then head on to the playlist that is linked in the description and start from the beginning. With that being said, let's talk about if statements. So in programming, of course, it makes a lot of sense that we want to check sometimes what is going on and whether something is true. For example, whether you are a user that can actually access the resource, whether operation of saving a user has been done properly, or any other type of condition. So how to do it? In Java, it's actually very simple. It's called if statements. So what we do is write down if. In parentheses, we need to put what the condition is. We're going to discuss this in just a second. And then in the curly brackets here, we need to specify what will happen if the statement in the parentheses is true. So right now, if you want to check if 2 is bigger than 1, then we'll print out true. So what do we use in the parentheses? We use anything that is actually Boolean. So anything that can result in a true, false. So it means that we can either use a comparison like this one, we can use a method, or we can use a Boolean variable. We'll discuss all of those in this video. So let's run this and let's see whether this code will execute. Yep. Fair enough, 2 is bigger than 1. So of course we've got system.println true. And now we can also have else along with our if. So this means that if 2 is greater than 1, please print out this. If not, so else if this condition is false, then this code will be executed that is within this else block. So let's try this. As you can see, IntelliJ is already marking this gray because it will not reach this because 2 is larger than 1, so we will not be able to reach this. But if we change the order, then of course the second part will print out, so we'll get false. So this is a way to, first of all, check a condition, and if the condition is false, then we can use the else block of the code, and then the code just progresses as usual. So let's put it into more realistic example, let's say. Let's write a class and a method that will check if the name is equal to John, let's say. So let's say John name checker. So we create a class that will be of void type because we do not want to return anything. We just want to print out the result of a method. Is John, let's call it that, and we'll be pulling information from the end user about the name itself. So we need a scanner, we will need to print out to the user what is expected. And then we need to use the scanner to actually get the name. Now that we got it, let's check if the name is equal to John. So in order to do that, we can remember that string class actually gives us a very good tool that is called equals method. So let's check if name dot equals John. If true, let's just print out the name matches, and else the name does not match. So depending on whether the name is actually equal to John, we'll get information that the name matches. If it's not equal, then we'll execute the other block of code that is in the else method. So let's make the method static to make it a bit easier so we do not need to instantiate the object. And let's just try to use it. John name checker, that is John. And let's see how it works. Write down your name. If you put in John, the name matches. Very nice. And if we put something else, the name does not match. So yeah, right now we can control very nicely what is going on in our program by using if and else statements, and only proceed if the statement is true. So right now what I want to do is, let's check whether can we actually use more than one condition to make sure that we know everything there is to know about ifs. So right now, in this example, we are only checking for a name John, but we can be checking for more. And this can be done by using if else, because if we do else if, if we do an else if, and then at the end we'll do an else, we can check multiple conditions. So we can check either if the name equals John, so let's change it to John, else if name that equals, let's say DevLaunch, then we'll print out the name matches DevLaunch. So we can chain our checks that if the first one is not true, then we'll check the second one, and if the second one is not true either, then we'll go into the else block. So let's see how it performs. So right now, if I write down John, the name matches John, okay. If I write down something else, just blank name, then we get that the name does not match. Or if I write down DevLaunch, then the name matches DevLaunch. So that's very nice, and I can actually make use of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What is there to say about if and else if statements? Of course, it is the best to do the learning by practicing, so head on to the document provided within the video, and then please go ahead to the if statement section and write down the code that is there in the task section to check what is going on. You will need to really familiarize yourself with the if statements, because we will be using those all the time in your road to become a programmer, because if statements are actually one of the mostly used structures in coding. With that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video where we'll be talking about loops.